Okay, so Sunday call, and we have a question about talking to people in different environments, and it turned into a big discussion about techniques and so on. And this is the most important thing that you need to realize about being social and opening, and the approach will fuck you up if you make it about only approaching. So we have to approach people, we have to talk to people. How do we make it something that we're comfortable doing? And there's really like four main components to engaging in starting a conversation. And then you can start looking at how and where per place. Like, is it in a strip club? Is it in a cafe? Is it in the mall? Is it in the daytime? Is it in the bar? And really what you have to realize is socializing is going to happen in all those places naturally. So the best way to get in touch with that is, number one, the first thing is that you have to be a part of the environment. If you're going against the culture of the environment or the situation of the environment, if you're out of place there. If you're a guy that doesn't like to be in clubs and you're going to clubs, you have to fake being in clubs. And that's why it's like Club Game came up with this amazing art and science to being an exaggerated like asshole. And that's how you be good with women. And that's just like a horrible way to go about it, because it's not sustainable. You're never going to get the results that you want. You have to enjoy being in the club. You have to be a guy that likes that. And there are people that like that. It's just not the majority of society. There's a ton of people that like that. But for the average guy that's looking to get better with women, he probably, doesn't like hanging out and listening to the latest, whatever song on the radio, Katy Perry shit or yada, whatever the fuck it is, man. So I'd never been to a club. Well, maybe like once before I got involved in pickup, and then I was all of a sudden in clubs all the time. So I had to, by default, get good at faking being in that environment. And when you fake something, you can never make it yourself, and it ends up being not beneficial. That doesn't mean you can't have sex. That doesn't mean you can't meet women. That doesn't mean you can't have all these other things. There'll just be something that had to not be you in order to get that. Okay. So of course there can be results there, but it's not great. The same thing goes for strip clubs. Like, guys are like, I want to bone a stripper because it's a fantasy of mine. Well, let me give you some news. Like, it's not that great. And I'm somebody that's I like strip clubs. To me is like my language. I fucking love it. It's just so easy for me to be myself there. Cafes as well. But let's get to this second thing of what we need to do in order to make a conversation happen. So again, opening. So we get comfortable with these places that we like, right? Wherever that might be, clubs, strip clubs, the mall or whatever, where we're comfortable, so that we can get the natural phenomenon of socializing to happen, because it does happen there. It's happening whether you want it or not. It just really has to do with how comfortable you can get in that environment. So the second thing that we need to do is we need to read the situation to see what the best possible way of engagement is. Okay, so people are like, all right, well, I'm going to do the indirect opener. I'm going to do the direct opener. I'm going to go in and I have this certain style and it's good. Okay, that's fucking great. Anybody that is so into a certain style, like direct game, or I'm going to do the Steve Mayeda fucking sit down and fucking smooth, cool, whatever, or I'm going to do the fucking shocking thing or whatever it is, what automatically limits, if you think that that's your way of socializing, yeah, that's a faction of your socializing. That's a very small window of it. But if you think that that's it, guess what happens? You automatically limit yourself to being social in other environments. So if what I do in a cafe in a certain specific environment or whatever, when there's two girls talking, how I talk to them, if I think that that's the only way of being social, I can immediately limit it. So we have to look at what the situation is with the people talking. Like if it's two girls and two guys, if it's a guy and a girl, if it's 10 girls sitting at a table, like how is the best possible, what's the best possible approach to get them to pay attention to us? And that's the most important part, because the real phenomenon and goal of opening is to get somebody to pay attention to us for 10 seconds to 15 seconds. That's all we need in order to switch to the next phase of interaction. Okay. The next phase of interaction would be to get isolation. All right. All social dynamics, it's fundamentally important that you need to isolate somebody. Okay. You need to get one-on-one with them. If you're talking to two people at one time, If you're doing like the standard mystery method stuff of talking to like 5 people at one time and entertaining them, building all this value, it will limit your rapport and it will make it impossible for seduction to happen. It may be the first window and inkling of it, the step of it. But if you're talking to 2 people, you're automatically talking to some superficial level of that person. If you're talking to one person, by default, you'll naturally move into some sort of real conversation. Of course, they can have a wall up. We need to take that down. But guess what? If you're talking to 2 people, there has to be a wall up. It's divided. You cannot gain intimacy. You can't get the natural leverages of socializing and what people are naturally doing. Again, this comes back to it. If you think it's hard to approach people in the mall, you need to start thinking, where are people naturally socializing in a mall? Because they are. That does happen. If you like being in a mall, you'll probably find that. But if you can't find it, or if you can't naturally find it yourself, find it with other people and then do it. If you're comfortable, you'll be able to do it. Well, guess what? If you're one-on-one talking with somebody, if you do that enough times, you're naturally going to fall into a conversation. If you were one-on-one talking to somebody and in a situation where you can get sexual, you won't need to do much. Like nature will take its course. Okay. It's more powerful than you and your wants and your desires and even your fears. So get yourself in that situation, and that's really going to help you out. The last thing is we need to escalate it in a direction. Okay. So we need to lead it. All right. Now, a lot of times in the whole pickup and men's development industry, you hear like, be a leader so people follow you. That's great if that's your personality, but in coaching people, that is not everybody's personality. That takes a lot of time and energy, and it's actually unnecessary to get the results of sex, connection, rapport, friendship, social circle, a good life, fulfillment, and socializing. You don't need to be this iconic man in order to have satisfaction with sex, and it's not a requirement for good relationships and a healthy sex life and happiness. But you do have to lead the situations that are in front of you. That is a part of independence. That is a part of you. That is a part of expression. That if you feel you want to talk to this girl, it is your job to ask her out on a date. Of course, she can ask you out on a date, but most likely in our society, that's not going to happen. And why would you do that? Why would you suppress a feeling if there are ways to actually talk to her and get to that side of her, without setting off red flags, with doing it in an efficient way that most people are responsive to. And I'll tell you this, you will get rejected. You will get rejected because people don't like you. And you will get rejected because they may like you, but you did it wrong. So what? Not talking or seeing beauty or women in the world or whatever it is, or having a sex life, not doing that because you're afraid that somebody may not like you, or that they did like you and you had an opportunity and you screwed it up, is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. All right. You should be talking to people. It's very possible. And, it's so much easier when you're not coming from repression of self to just actively be social. So let's go over a few of the examples of these 4 things in different environments. Okay, so let's say we're at a cafe, one of my favorite, cafe and strip club. Seriously, my 2 very opposite places of where I like to start conversations with people. Cafe, I sit down. What do people do in a cafe? Well, each cafe is a little bit different. Some people might be studying. Some people might be, waiting to go to work. Like if you get a hustle and bustle Starbucks place that's very active, there's a lot of stuff going on. People are moving. Okay, that's going to be a different environment and also a different situation that I'm going to have to approach the person on. Let's say I'm at another, it could be a Starbucks, it could be a local Austin place, because there's tons of those in Austin, where people are just relaxed and chill. They're talking and they're not talking. Actually, let's do this. They're not talking. They're on their computers working, thinking about how to be the next best entrepreneur, millionaire, whatever. And so they're doing those things, right? Well, how is it that I get to this second thing? So first, I enjoy being in those places. I fucking love it, man. I love working on my computer, doing stuff and then taking a break and looking up and seeing all the people around. I dig that shit. I also like, I'm very comfortable in a cafe because I worked in them for years before I had this job, is where, it's like there's the hustle and bustle. The barista's going ape shit. The person's like writing on the cups what the thing is, and they put it on there, and everybody's like impatient and on their phones and waiting in line and trying to get that their coffee shot and da-da-da-da. I love that environment. Okay. So I need to basically get to this second phase of where I want that person to pay attention to me for 10 seconds or 15 seconds. They need to break out of their shell of superficiality, and that's all that matters. So if they're in the hustle and bustle, I could say something very simple like, man, the weather's crazy today. Like, When was the last time you had a good conversation while standing in line with somebody and, just wanted to start your day? Anyway, what's your name? I like to meet new people. It's as simple as that. And it requires some confidence on my part to want to be comfortable in that situation. So I feel at home. It's good. And then it also requires, me looking at them, having maybe some favorable traits of humanity, like smiling, some positivity. I might be in a bad mood, but I got to fake that a little bit in order to be honest about my bad mood. It's like, oh man, I like meeting people in line. What do you do on a bad day? When you wake out, on the wrong side of the bed. That's where I'm at today. Coffee may not be good enough today. What's your name? So I might need some positivity and some charisma in order to let that real self express, which will, as you can see, only took like 2 or 3 seconds to get there. Let's say if I'm sitting and studying on a computer, or I'm not studying, but I'm creating something or working with people, which I do all the time. I love it. In 2007, this is what I would do. I'd be at my computer writing stuff, and I'd take a break because I'd be nuts from writing 2 hours straight or 3 hours straight or whatever it was, or maybe only 20 minutes straight, but I'd be nuts. And I'd say like, hey, what's your name? My name's Steve. I need to take a break for a second. I've been at my computer going nuts. What are you doing today? Anyway, how'd you end up in this place? It's very easy for me to get into a conversation where 10 seconds to 15 seconds that person would show their real self to me. Okay. It might be another situation, which always happens. There's these popular cafes in Austin where people go and hang out, which is very cool. That's even the best. And all these pickup guys go there and they approach and they're like, hey, yeah, what's your name? And they come up with all these lines and they just do it so incongruent. If they could just love being there because it's cool. They usually have good music. People are smoking cigars. People are drinking coffee. People are drinking liquor. It's like good, calm vibes. Like those are 4 easy things that you can fit into. So I usually just say, hey, what's your guys' name? Because I'm comfortable in that environment. What's going on? What brought you guys here? My friends are over there talking about like stupid stuff. I want to see what you guys are talking about because you seem cool. Plus you're girls. I'd rather talk to girls than a bunch of guys. Anyway, what's your name? Very simple, easy thing to accomplish. Let's say I'm in the mall. Okay, I got to do what mall people do. If mall people are at work, well, this is the best thing that you can do. Go work in the fucking mall. If you work in the mall, it gives you, first off, it's kind of a shitty job. I never liked it, but it made me realize how everybody talked in the mall. Okay. So if I went into a store and wanted to talk to a girl at a store, which wasn't necessarily the question, I know that, I realize, like if I'm another mall worker, if I've experience working in the mall, I get it. It's like, hey, what's going on? Is it busy in here today? I'm not really a customer. I work at the shop down the street or whatever. And it's, just want to see how things are going. You seem like a cool person. Like that's how you would start a conversation and be really comfortable in that environment. But check this out. What about the people going to the mall that pickup says you got to run down and get in front of and immediately gain value and hammer them down so they're lower than you, that they're begging to get some acceptance that you'll like them, and only then you can get the rapport that you need to go on a date? What a fucking horrible way of like being social. That by default says I'm not good enough to talk to you and just have a casual conversation. And conversations are the most abnormal thing in the world. In order to have one with you, I have to fucking trick you or belittle you in order to get you to like me. What a shitty way to treat your own self, your expression, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so what do we do if we're in the mall talking to people? There are so many reasons to talk to somebody. Now let's look at if we went up to him and you said, hey, what's going on? How are you guys doing? What would actually give resistance to that? If you walked up to a group of girls or a girl or a group of girls and guys and you said, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? They would think that's weird. Okay, that's out of the social dialogue of the mall. Okay, it doesn't happen. They're also focused on doing something else and maybe being social together or going on some mission to talk to or to buy something, right? Or shop. They also might be really fucking busy, and that may piss them off that somebody is getting in the way of it. And they also hate to be hit on in a bad way. Okay. So actually forget all 4 of those things, but it's like, they're doing something else. They're preoccupied with each other. They don't want to be hit on poorly, and something else. Like, let's think about how we can diffuse those by what we say. Okay. So if we say, hey, I got a question for you. All right. What's going to get them to stop for 10 to 15 seconds? And I already know those are the resistances that are going to hit. And the big things is I'm busy doing something else, Okay. And you're getting in the way of that. The other thing is I don't want to be hit on bad. And this could be transitioned into a bar, any sort of environment, whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? And this is key, because those are the big fears of whenever you're going to cold approach a girl. Man, if you could just say, like, hey, I want to ask you something, and I don't want to come off as some guy that's being rude or disrespecting you, and, you know, you're attractive, you probably get hit on in all sorts of horrible ways. But, and then we move on to our next thing, which will be towards that isolation. If you did that and you had the combination of being comfortable in that environment, don't go to the mall just because there's chicks there. Go to the mall because, you know, you mildly enjoy it. Okay, you have to at least mildly enjoy it. It helps if you really enjoy it, but because you mildly enjoy it, and you're practicing on, you know, something, and you want to meet people like that. That's the reason to go. Like, don't go just because there's chicks there and you know you don't like it. All right. But if you were to say that, like, hey, I have a question for you, and you had a smile on your face, you did some socially favorable things like smile, you have some positivity in your tonality, but that's all you need. And then you can get real. Hey, I just wanted to stop you. I know you're probably busy or whatever, but here, I'll walk with you. You walk with them. Don't try and fucking get them to stop. It's not a PowerPoint. Walk with them. The goal is to connect with them. You walk with them side by side, and you just say, look, I know, you know, you're probably busy or whatever, and you probably hate to get, you know, like accosted by guys talking to you or something, but I actually have a question about you because I love to get to know people, and I love to get to know strangers in whatever way. Okay, that's just a way to express something that I really think. It's not necessarily a routine. If you want to really express something else, you can. But let's take this into a strip club, which I am immensely comfortable with. But that doesn't mean that every dancer or waitress or person working there is ready to come and talk to me and have a good time. Okay, I'm comfortable there. I'm semi-empowered there. I'm relaxed. I like it. You know, I've fucking been in tons of strip clubs. A ton of my friends are strippers. It's a language that I enjoy being around. So basically, I go in there, I take a seat, a waitress comes up, and she may not want to talk to me. It may not be her day. Let's say I feel she's attractive, and I'm going to just want to get to talk to her for 10 to 15 seconds. I say, hey, what's going on? So how long have you worked here? You know, like, are you new? Are you old? What's going on? You know, my name's Steve, by the way. What's your name? Whatever. And I go like, okay, I'll have a soda water, whatever I order, right? I don't drink, so I always get like, that's even better. Like, people are like, I go to a strip club, I got to drink all the, no. Here's the thing. All that venue cares about, strip club, cafe, high-end bar, whatever, they don't care. So they do care about what you do there. They don't want you to cause trouble, but as long as you're not causing trouble, you're good. And what they care about is that you order a drink. All those TVs, all the environment of the furniture in the place is all there for you to buy something. That is it. Okay. And think about this with a strip club. Like, there are naked women in a club, you know, for you, you can get dances or whatever. I don't really care about the shit. There are TVs. There's like some cable thing. And why do they have all that for? Why is that there? Why is that there for the club? What does the club care? What does the management care about? Is that you don't cause any trouble. That's number one. But number two, you fucking buy something. You pay your cover. You buy a cheap drink, you fit within the culture of the club, you're good. And then all of that is for you to exist within, you know, and then you can buy a dance if you want. It's not a big deal. That's what they're there for, right? But at that point, you fit within the structure of that area. And so what would I say? You know, she says, I've been working here, you know, a short time or whatever. I say, and this is all I want to do because I want to get to the individual side of them. I want to get to the individual part. So it's super simple. I say, like, you know, I'll take a water, you know, how long have you been working here, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's all right. I'll pay for the $4 water. No big deal. But here's a question for you, because I want to get isolation, right? So I would literally say this in any of these things: cafe, bar, mall, wherever I'm talking to somebody, strip club. I'm going to ask like a simple question, like, so what are you doing here? You know, what is this for? Blah, 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 blah. I like meeting new people. I tend to get real answers from them, something like that, just to get some sort of real expression and choice. Hence, like with the strip club waitress, I just say, hey, how long have you been working here? And I'm going to say something personal. Or that will elicit a personal interaction, because I want isolation with them, that third part, right? So I could say something along the lines of like, well, look, hey, I just, you seem like, you don't seem like the average strip club waitress girl or whatever that is, but why did you decide here? It just seems like one of the places where it's kind of cool and happening and you'll make easy money, but you could see like the worst side of guys too. Okay, I know that's true for anybody who works in a strip club. It's like, it's great. There's this absolute truth. There's this freedom. Everybody's naked and exposed. Well, not everybody, but the women are. And it's no holds barred. You can get any drug you'd want there. There's this weird chaos, thing happening. But at the same time, everybody's also full of shit. And you see a different side of a person, but it could be a really bad side of them. Like, there's that interesting dynamic. I know that because I'm comfortable in that environment. Let's say I'm at the mall and I'm talking to somebody and I run somebody down. I'm walking next to him and I just say, I want to ask you this question that's a real, like, I like to ask strangers this, but like, what do you think is attractive about somebody? All right. Random question. They think about it, but I want to go for something personal because I want that isolation. I want them to be the real selves with me. And I'll say, you know what? It's funny because just whenever I ask that question, it freaks people out, but you have an interesting reaction towards it. It just seems like, what kind of guys do you attract? Do you attract good guys or bad guys? Are you the type of girl that attracts guys with a lot of confidence, but as soon as you get physical, they turn into like weak men or something like that? Again, I know a lot about women. I have a lot of experience. I also have a huge community of guys that I talk to on almost a daily basis that has a lot of experience with women. And that's something that women always say. They attract men. Guys are different when they first meet them. And then as soon as they get in a relationship, as soon as they get physical, and technically as soon as they get sexual, as soon as that guy has sex with them, the guys act different. They act like pussies. That's when the asshole side comes out. That's when the needy side comes out. It's just an interesting thing. You probably know from yourself. That's true. It's actually true for me too. So I get in that direction. Okay. All I would need next, and this is, I need this one point on the map to hit next, is I need them to be open enough to show their real selves, to state intent to get a date. If I'm at a strip club, the structure of that date is going to be different. That girl's not going to leave work. She has to stay there. That girl's also probably not going to meet me the first day of, it does happen, but it's rare. She's not going to leave with me from there that night. But more likely I might need to build some trust or be there a few more times and to be able to make friends with her or meet her, or perhaps I have friends that work there and that gains some trust with her. So getting her number is probably not the best strategy for a strip club right away. Doesn't mean you don't need to do it. But with a girl at the mall or at a cafe, I could very easily say once they show their true expression of self. So if I talk to them about what they're attracted to, what they want from men, or who they are themselves, what's missing from their sex life, whatever it is, these are the things that usually I talk about. And she shows her real self, I can say, hey, you know what? You're cool. What's your number? Like, we should hang out sometime. And it is that fucking simple, man. But it is so dependent upon, are you comfortable in that environment or are you forcing it? Okay. Number two, have I thrown out most of the pickup bullshit of like this super technique shit, but have I done something where I can effectively get a 10-second conversation in that environment? It's going to be slightly different in Whole Foods as it would be in a cafe, as it would be in a high stimuli bar. But I need that moment. Am I getting isolation? And am I getting isolation with their real self? Am I talking to that? Okay. Is it no longer superficial? And then can I escalate it and move it into a direction that I want? If you are not comfortable in that environment, then you can test the waters and try and see if you like it because you've never done it, but don't try and force something that isn't working. The weird thing about meeting women is there's a skill that you hone yourself to learn, and that you will need to push yourself towards. But then there's a part of your true organic personality that you cannot deny at the expense of learning the skill. To put that in a little bit more of an understanding is pretty much what I've been describing this whole time, is that you have to be yourself. You have to be yourself. You have to like it in order to learn the skills to really show yourself, to really show yourself to other people. And if you think that you have to learn a skill because yourself sucks, then you're never going to get better. And you're always going to think you suck. You right now have everything literally that you need in order to have all the stuff that you'd want in your life that's good. You may not run the fastest. You may not win the competition of lays or whatever shit, but you have everything you need to have a good sex life, a good social life, a healthy life, a happy life, all those different things. It takes learning whatever it is you need to learn to get there and devoutly being yourself while doing that. All right.